When I worked for a security company, I used to have to do the nightly rounds in an old, dilapidated building, which used to be a newspaper printing press and a journalist office. Usually I would do these rounds around 3 or 4 a.m. The building was 5 stories, and on each level, there were small metal cylinders attached to the walls and doorways, which necessitated the usage of a deggy stick, which I'd press onto the points, which registered to the main office to prove I was doing all 5 floors, end to end. Some of the building was lit, as during the day, workers would be inside servicing the electric panels or tearing apart the floors. When I did these rounds, nobody but me would be in the building. It had a cold chill inside at the time from the winter air. Walking through a large abandoned building in dead silence, I admit, was somewhat creepy. The smell was old and stale. Sometimes I'd hear strange noises, but nothing too serious. I felt generally comfortable in the building except on one floor, floor 3. One end of the floor was lit by an overhead light around the staircase, but the other end, which stretched for a good 10 or 15 yards, was pitch black. Whenever I would make my way down the hallway, which you can only go left to another hallway, to which eventually led to an open room with short, segmented cubicle walls, previously an office floor, and on the other side, dark, open bathrooms, which looked something out of Silent Hill, I always felt uneasy. Extremely uneasy. That feeling some get when they say, "It felt like I'm being watched." Yeah, that was me. One night, while making my way through the darkness of that floor, I felt something touch the back of my neck. I swatted at it, thinking maybe a spider had landed on me. But no, nothing there. I shone my flashlight everywhere and found nothing. The hair stood up on my neck, and I made a run for it. I looked back behind me, ignoring that final deggy point I had to hit, which involved me walking the full stretch of that hallway, through a door to another creepy, dark room, hitting my point, and going back to the eerie hallway, and finally back to the light. And I swear, I saw a shadowy mass moving about near those dreaded bathrooms. Later on that night, I went to evaluate a guard at another site who used to work in that building 4 years ago when it was functioning with employees. I started to tell him about that building. I said to him, "Yeah, I get weird vibes on," and he immediately interjected with, "The 3rd floor?" I was dumbfounded and my creep meter shot so high it broke the glass. I asked him what he meant by that before revealing my story. He told me that a woman had committed suicide on that floor. Her husband left her, she got up from her desk, walked to the window, and leapt out, landing like a splattered pancake in the parking lot. Not long after, the woman on that floor refused to stay past 4 o'clock, and they all avoided the bathrooms. They made claims of hearing voices and seeing shadows out of their peripherals, among other things. He used to do the rounds in the building during working hours. But one night he stayed late and did the rounds after dark, when everyone had left. He felt the same vibes, and he also claimed that on one night he shined a flashlight down in the direction of the bathrooms and purportedly saw a tall, black figure, slightly hunched over, standing in the hallway, back towards him, peeking over its shoulder. He bolted out and never went on that floor again, or at least near the bathrooms. To give some detail on why the bathrooms were so eerie, they were both next to each other and doorless. When I would shine my light into the pitch darkness, I received back the glare of mirrors with stains splashed all over them, creepy, porcelain white sinks, a white tiled floor, and shadows bouncing off of the walls. If you haven't played it, I'd recommend going on YouTube and watching a clip of the hallway bathroom scene from Outlast 2. The corridors and bathrooms were strikingly similar to what I'm describing here. Just those images alone would give you goosebumps. Now, I knew psychologically I'd be screwed having to do the rounds at this building, but I couldn't avoid it. Our company was contracted to have a guard walk the grounds twice a day. I got stuck with the night rounds. So you can imagine, my next visit I was not looking forward to. It went on for several days with nothing eventful occurring. However, that feeling of dread wouldn't subside, but only strengthen. Finally, one night I worked up the courage and said out loud, "If anybody's in here, make your presence known now. Stop messing with me." Nothing. I continued down the dark hallway, through the door into that dark room at the end, flashlight in hand, hit my point, and re-entered the hallway, passing the bathrooms and going to turn right into the dark, open cubicle area. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted rapidly and I froze. I can't explain it, but I got this sinking feeling in me that something was right behind me. Now, I know that typically, when people give their accounts of seeing ghosts or demons, it's usually just tricks of the light or their own mind seeing something that really isn't there. But mentally, they somehow contort reality to fit their skewed beliefs that they're seeing something which is not there. Well, I've had that happen to me before, and this is not one of those instances. I was completely awake, engaged, and lucid. Hell, I'd never even really believed in the paranormal or the demonic. I was never religious. Anytime I thought I saw a ghost or spirit, I was able to conjure up a reasonable explanation. Shadow, creaking of pipes, house settling, dog barking outside, etc. Believe me, I've tried over and over to rationalize what I'm about to tell you, but I just can't. I was as much a skeptic as any scientist on Earth. What I was about to confront was absolute, formed, and not by any means a trick of the light or peripheral movement. I started to walk faster, praying to reach the end of the darkness. My gut told me, "Don't turn around, don't turn around." But I had to. I couldn't wonder anymore. So I turned. I looked behind me, into the darkness. I shuddered immediately and jumped back. What I saw was a black, deep black figure. Darker than any of the darkest corners of the floor by far, with frizzy hair, tall, with arms much longer than a man's, and in the quickness of the situation, what looked like long fingernails or claws. At first, I couldn't believe it. My rational brain deduced that I was staring at a tall homeless hiding in the building. I even called out, "Hello?" I was frozen in place, my heart about to punch a hole through my breastbone. This thing, still and silent, bent down, got on all fours, and started running at me at full speed. And at the way it was taking its strides in that split second were short, very fast movements. Like a crippled dog chasing down the mailman. I turned and sprinted so fast towards the exit door that I fell forward, slamming myself into the door. I opened it to run out, but turned around one last time and shone my flashlight directly back where I'd encountered this thing. There was a beam that ran from the floor to the ceiling, with a breaker box attached to it, and the door to the box was flipping back and forth, making banging sounds each time it hit the beam. I watched until it stopped. Something had slapped it. You could deduce the wind from me running could have caused this, but it was a good 15 feet away when I passed it, and on the other side of that beam. This couldn't have happened. After this, I still had to do rounds in the building. I had no choice. It was my job. But from then on, I wore headphones, putting music on full blast, and I'd sprint from end to end. Weeks later, I stopped in the darkness and called out for whatever it was to leave, that I refused to communicate with it any further. To this day, since this happened, I've not encountered anything I'd call paranormal. But that night, that thing, I'll never forget. It was real. It was full of hate, and I'm convinced it wanted to hurt me or kill me.